Hello. In this module, we're going to discuss the implicit grant type in detail. This flow is a simplified version of the authorization code flow, and it's typically used with browser-based clients. The main reason why you want to use the implicit grant is if there's a client application that wants access to a third-party resource server, and that server is written as a single-page app or in JavaScript. Additionally, you don't want to share the user's credentials with the client app. For example, let's say you have an analytics client application that counts the number of messages you post to your Google account. You don't want to share your credentials with the client application. So the app lets you log in with your Google account, and then you allow the analytics app to access your Google account data. I'll start by describing the actors involved in the implicit grant. There's the user agent, typically a browser, the client application, the authorization server, which is Apigee Edge, the authentication server, which is a login app, and the resource server. The main difference between the authorization code grant and the implicit grant is that the implicit grant does not return an authorization code. Now let's talk about this grant type in detail. The user starts the process by opening the client application and clicking a link to log in. For example, you've probably seen this when you open an application and it has a button for you to log in with Google. When the user clicks the link to log in, that sends an authorize request to Apigee Edge. Apigee validates the client ID and redirect URI, and then redirects the client application to the login application. The client application understands that this is a redirect request and opens the user agent and sends the request there. The user agent sends a GET request to the login application for the login form, and that form is returned to the user agent. Notice that at this point, the user is not interacting with the client application, but with the user agent. The user enters their credentials, submits them to the login application, and then it validates them. Next, the user has to provide consent, which means that the user is granting the client application access to its data. After the user grants access to the client application, it sends a POST request with the client ID, the redirect URI, and the scopes to Apigee Edge. Apigee validates the client ID and the redirect URI and then generates an access token. The login application forwards the request back to the user agent, which forwards the request to the client application. The client app extracts the access token from the request and caches it. At this point, the implicit grant flow is complete. Next, we'll talk about what happens after the client application receives the access token. Once the client app has the token, it can use it to access the resource server. So now that you understand the implicit grant, let's look at how you configure the OAuth v2 policy. Use the generate access token implicit operation to generate an access token. Then you can also set the token's expiry time. The last policy that you need to protect your API from unauthorized access is the verify access token policy. This policy should be included on all the proxies that need to be protected. The client application should send the access token in the authorization header as a bearer token. Now you have a thorough understanding of the implicit grant type, and you can use it to protect your APIs if the use case arises. If you have any additional questions, please post them on our community and review our documentation for more details. Thanks for watching.